Hi, my name is Saskia Vogel, and I'll be reading from my translation of Linda Boström Knausgård's October Child, published this April 2021 by World Editions. I wish I could tell you about the factory, but I can't anymore. And soon I'll no longer be able to remember my days or nights or why I was born. This is what I know. I was there for several long stretches between 2013 and 2017, and my brain was shot through with so much electricity that they were sure I wouldn't be able to write this. We'll start with an intensive series of 12 treatments. This was their word for it, treatments. A word to neutralize their venture and reduce the fear around the procedure. They said it was a gentle treatment, like restarting a computer. Yes, they really did use such awful imagery. Theirs was a language created by people who believe that this method can, in fact, relieve a person's suffering. And they were so used to it that the procedure became something as easily forgotten as your most recent lie. They carried out 20 procedures a day. These conveyor belt affairs were the crowning glory of a business devoid of insight. In here, they had free rein and could explain a person dropping out by saying that he or she wasn't responding to the treatment. Under such circumstances, results were proudly discussed instead. Every gap of contact with the outside world was sealed off. They were so afraid of scrutiny that they blamed everything on the patient. She was unmanageable, he was already too far gone, she was desperate. The old woman was a chronic and should have been living in another time, when she could have resided peacefully with the others in a world adapted to each of their individual needs. 3 hours conditional discharge in the park and an always sympathetic nurse's hands. That time had passed. Nowadays, no one wanted chronics on their ward. Results were what mattered, and what got results was the ever so popular electroconvulsive therapy, the answer to a person's every torment. They sold their treatments to patients who had no choice but to believe what the chief physician was saying in the brief time there actually was to discuss it. 10 minutes a week, no time for questions. Difficult patients were given a higher voltage. Everybody knew that. I had a weakness inside me and all throughout my being. So I ended up at this place a lot. I'd been subjected to electricity a number of times. I knew everything about the treatment. At 5 o'clock in the morning, a nurse would come into the room to insert a needle. By the way the door handle was grabbed, you could tell whether or not it was going to hurt. Zahid was afraid of inserting needles, so he'd always miss and would start sweating right there in the little room. Maybe it was no surprise he'd miss, as weak as the lamplight was in that room. How the others found the blood in my veins seemed like a wonder in this half-light. Finally, Zahid would slide the needle into the back of my hand, where the veins were most prominent, but where it hurt the patient most. If Sister Maria opened the door, you know you wouldn't feel a thing. The needle slid in painlessly, and she received many grateful smiles. Alif would jam the needle in. He had perfect aim, and for this we were grateful, but his jamming hurt so much that for a while the pain would wipe out whatever reality you happened to be in. Some poked around without hitting their mark, their veins forever rolling away. Remarkably, veins always rolled for the same people, and some would stick it in without warning. Those times I'd scream in pain. I needed to prepare myself for the needle's entry. I needed to hear, "Here it comes," so I could exhale when the needle pushed through the skin, and so, magically, ward off the pain. Or at least render it manageable. When the needle was in place, they taped on an injection port, which they then flushed through with a saline solution to make sure the cannula worked, and the anesthesia had free access both to your bodily functions and to your mind, which would give up at once. Total capitulation. I hope you enjoyed that reading, and I hope you enjoy the book. Thank you.